Though Russell Westbrook became the fourth player since the merger to score at least 40 points in 3 straight games, but didn't get a triple-double. Westbrook finished with 45 points, while the other 4 starters on the Thunder combined for 12. Max, should Russ ever forgive Kevin Durant for leaving Westbrook?
The answer is yes, he should, but it's on KD to make that happen. It's not that Russell Westbrook should simply turn the other cheek. But if KD comes to him hat in hand, because KD was in the wrong, not for leaving, even if he thought that Russell Westbrook, it's too much, who's the alpha, who's going to take the last shot, I don't want to deal with all that. Even if it was an indictment on some level on KD's thoughts about how good Russell Westbrook could be in terms of eventually winning a championship, that's not what it's about. It's the way KD left. It's the fact that Russell Westbrook had to find out from someone else. It's the fact that in the aftermath of that, KD continued to make comments, whether or not he understood the implications of what he was saying and how it would be used in the media, etc., continued to make comments that made Russell Westbrook answer comments forever. KD's behavior in terms of the way he left, the onus is on him. He needs to go to Russell Westbrook and try to make it right. That said, I believe if KD does that, and it doesn't have to be tomorrow or next year, but at some point in their lives, if KD does that and makes an honest attempt to apologize and he really believes it and make it right with Russell Westbrook, then in my opinion, Russell Westbrook should forgive him.
Well, listen, you don't want to harbor animosity towards anybody forever. That much is true. But I think that we have to take into account that Russell Westbrook is completely justified if he never really speaks to the guy again. And it's not just because of Kevin Durant leaving the way that he did, but it's the conditions under which he left Russell Westbrook to inherit. Russell Westbrook virtually has very little to no help. He's out there night in and night out like a one-man show. I watched him last night. He looked completely exhausted come that fourth quarter. I mean, it's just the only thing that could stop him is fatigue. He's only one human being. When you combine that with the fact that from a mental and emotional standpoint, he's had to carry the load of explaining to some degree why Kevin Durant left and, fending off accusations that he left because of you. He left because he could never win with you. You've got folks throughout the NBA contemplating whether or not Russell Westbrook is this selfish guy that you can't play with because he wants to shoot first and he wants to be the alpha dog and all of this other stuff. It was Russell Westbrook who was left to answer those questions, all because of how Kevin Durant handled his own departure from Oklahoma City. So in that regard, again, I'm not talking about harboring, hatred and animus to the point where you're volatile or anything like that. What I mean in terms of the word forgiveness, Molly, when we ask the question in that regard is, what else is there to say? We might say hi and bye, but what else is there to say? Because it's one thing for you to leave because you believe that there's a better situation that exists and you can't necessarily win with me. But the fashion in which you left, where you couldn't even call me, you couldn't come to my face, you couldn't just be open about what you wanted to do and massage the situation as to make life for your supposed little brother considerably easier. You basically threw me to the wolves. As Kenny Smith came on our show during All-Star Weekend and said, it was straight disrespect. And so when you look at it from that perspective, just think about what Russell Westbrook, we constantly look at individuals from a physical standpoint, running up and down the court, having to go 1-on-5, having to carry the load where he's scoring 31 points a game in 34.8 minutes a night. Which is in and of itself great.
Insane.
But what we're not taking into account is the drain of mental warfare. The fact that I gotta get up every day and I gotta be on my game mentally and emotionally. That stuff weighs just as much as the physical. And we can't diminish the load that Russell Westbrook has had to carry if he is to win league MVP, shooting 42% from the field. It ain't just because of the triple doubles. It's the duress under which he had to accumulate the triple doubles. That's because of Kevin Durant, not Russell Westbrook.
In another way, we would have never known fully how great Russell Westbrook is unless first Kevin Durant gets hurt, because we saw Russell Westbrook emerge in his with his, the full ability on display, because it was all about him. And now this season without Kevin Durant, he's continuing, even adding to that, averaging a triple-double. It's just insane. It's insane. So in that way, maybe he should be, on some level, grateful the way things turned out, in the sense that people can see fully how great a player Westbrook is. But my point about him forgiving KD, Stephen A., is if KD is truly contrite and expresses that to him, and is that otherwise he carries that around with him. And Russell Westbrook is twice victimized because he has to carry that hatred toward KD around with him. Better off for himself to forgive him, even if he never cares about him quite the same way.
On that note, let's stay with the Warriors and their future. So they lost back-to-back regular season games, and this was the first time in the past 2 seasons because Steph Curry has gone cold, shooting 4 of 31 in his last 3 games. The cold shooting has some calling the Warriors the drought. Y'all are just mean. And the Spurs are now only 3 games back in the West. So we asked you guys earlier in the show, will the Spurs catch the Drought Brothers for the top? I can't believe I'm saying this. For the top seed in the West, and 54% say they will. That San Antonio will catch them. Stephen A., you on board with that?
No, not yet. I mean, I look at the Warriors' schedule, and it's a few subpar teams on there. So I'm of the mindset that, yes, San Antonio could potentially catch them, but I'm not going to give them that edge. I'm going to still hold on to the Warriors getting the #1 seed because they still have the best shooting backcourt in NBA history as far as I'm concerned. I don't care about their recent 3-game slump. These brothers are the best shooters I've ever seen. And most nights, more often than not, I think they're going to make things happen. And I think they've got a good team with a nucleus in place to win regular season games. Not to mention the fact that, again, Steve Kerr has proven to be a hell of a coach. And I think that he's done a hell of a job, and I think that he has the pulse of this team. And they don't only play for just themselves. I think they play for him, too. And so I think that they'll find a way to hold on. I think things could get potentially interesting. But they got a few subpar, the Sacramento Kings and the Los Angeles Lakers on their schedule. I think they could end up winning enough games to hold on to that #1 seed, Max.
Yeah, look, without Kevin Durant, maybe the Spurs are better than the Warriors. We'll see. Although other than Kawhi Leonard, their entire nucleus, their starters, though Powell's just been moved to the bench, are older. And now it's a long season, and that can affect the Spurs also, even though, Popovich is his players, and so keeps them fresher than they otherwise might be. Stephen A. just pointed it out. The Spurs have more home games, but they're against tougher teams the rest of the schedule. I would say overall the Warriors have an easier schedule, and even without Durant, I mean, they didn't have Durant last year. Yes, no Barnes, no Bogut. They have a great team even without those guys. They're coached up extremely well. They've been playing together for a number of years. They're a well-oiled machine, and they have a 3-game lead on the Spurs. Now, I realize with 21 games for the Warriors left to play, I realized just yesterday, I said, well, they have a 4-game lead. 1 day later, they have a 3-game lead. It's not inconceivable that the Spurs catch them. But I think if you stake a team like Golden State with an easier schedule, with not a ton of games left, a 3-game lead, I like them to win the West.
Well, look, I'm looking at this right now. First of all, they got 2 days rest, and then they go against the Knicks. Well, we know what's going to happen this coming Sunday. Let's throw that out the way. Then I'm looking at games on the schedule. You got the Timberwolves. You got the 76ers. You got the Magic. Milwaukee. They're at home, though. You're at home playing against Milwaukee, even though they gave you some noise last year. You got, I'm just looking Sacramento. Minnesota again, Phoenix, New Orleans with DeMarcus Cousins on the court. They can't seem to win. They win when he's not there. So I'm just looking at it from the standpoint that the Spurs probably have a slightly tougher schedule. I just say that the Warriors should hold on.
All right, you guys do, but the First Take fam says they're feeling the Spurs right now. Coming up, the NFL has a serious problem that needs to be fixed sooner than later. We'll explain that coming up in the Final Take.
I am Usain Bolt, the fastest man in the world, and people of Jamaica love and watch First Take.
Load up on the latest styles right now.
If you lucky, first take, stop me. 4 takes, that's you. 3 takes, not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take, got me.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into First Take on a Feel Good Friday. And look who is here. Darren Woodson is in
was he?
building the Super Bowl.
Hold it.
Always a pleasure.
Right
Darren.
off the
He's already chirping.
Hold it.
I already hear him.
Little bird.
Hold
Yes,
on.
yes.
Hold on. What the hell is he doing here this early?
I
Why
upgraded.
is Darren Woodson, a cowboy,
Yeah.
starting off first take? Security? Where's security? Where's
Hey,
security?
Max, I'm sitting in your seat too, Max.
Oh, Lord.
Appreciate you, Max.
See that?
Stephen
Yeah.
A. Max
Well,
in
listen.
New York.
Listen, when the cat's away.
Going on?
Yeah. We know when the cat's away. How are you guys feeling this morning? You're already feisty, I can tell.
I was all right until I saw him,
Yeah,
a cowboy,
whatever.
starting off the show.
Haters.
I know Stephen A. and I are about to butt heads on a bunch of stuff, so I can't wait.
Okay, cool. Darren, do you want to start the show?
Let's do it.
Okay, we'll start it then because Darren wants to. There is a youth movement in New York. The Jets add Brandon Marshall to the list of veteran players that will be released. First reported by Newsday, then confirmed by our Adam Schefter. So a source close to Marshall told Schefter that the Jets offered a contract extension with no pay cut, but they eventually decided to part ways and not to trade him. So Marshall joins Revis, Nick Mangold, and Nick Folk as offseason salary cap casualties for the Jets. The move can't become official until the new league business year, which starts March 9th, right around the corner at 4 p.m. Eastern. Hall of Famer Bill Polian with a hot take on Gangrene.
Don't forget, next year in the draft is a good quarterback year. Shall we say that maybe they're reloading with the idea that this year may not be a terrific year record-wise.
Are they doing the Sixers thing and tanking, Bill?
Well, I don't want to say that. But we saw the Browns do it with no repercussions, by the way. So who knows? Maybe it's an objective. It's hard for me to believe in New York. And the moves they've made thus far have been justified without question.
And you believe the Browns tanked this year, then?
There's no question about it. They said it. They didn't care about the one-loss record. They said it, and there were no repercussions.
So the Jets are clearly getting younger and say $43.4 million against the cap. But Stephen A., are they making the right moves?
Well, listen, I think they're making the right moves in terms of Brandon Marshall because, again, if you don't have a quarterback, you got a problem. Ryan Fitzpatrick obviously had a very, very good year the year before last. This year, in part due to how the Jets handled things, particularly in training camp and what a holdout they allowed them to be and how they left so many things dangling, really disrupted their rhythm, their flow, their momentum. And as a result, that, as far as I'm concerned, that relatively sabotaged their season. Ryan Fitzpatrick comes in late in training camp. Ultimately, he takes a while to get going. You look at Eric Decker, he goes down. Matt Forte wasn't the running back that you wanted him to be. The offensive line wasn't what it used to be, particularly with the retirement of DeBrickashaw Ferguson. So you take all of those things into account. Remember, Nick Mangold is not going to be back now. But you got to take into account all of those things that were transpiring. So ultimately, it led to acrimony. Remember, your quarterback who was vying for the starting job got his jaw broken because he stupidly got in the face of a 250-pound linebacker he owed money to, if you can believe that. I'm talking about Geno Smith here, obviously. All of those things taken into consideration, they never really had a chance to have a successful season. And so when you look at it from that perspective, and then Darrelle Revis didn't want to be there any longer and played like it. As a result, they've let him go. Now they've let Brandon Marshall go. No doubt they'll probably let David Harris go. They'll probably try to trade Sheldon Richardson as well. You take all of those things into consideration, they clearly seem to be conceding next season. I can't believe I'm saying that in New York. I certainly don't support it, but I do like Bowles. I do like McCagnon. I know that they have some kind of a vision, and I know that they feel somewhat betrayed by the personnel they had in that locker room last year. So to return with all of those bodies intact, I'm not sure I would trust them any more than McCagnon or Bowles or Woody Johnson appears to be trusting them right now. And as a result, with Brandon Marshall, 32 years of age, coming off his worst season, only 59 receptions, targeted 128 times, and still putting up those paltry numbers, that wasn't about his talent because we all know he could play. It was about what he was playing with. He's never been in the playoffs before. He's 32 years of age. He's not going to be an asset to that locker room because he doesn't want to be a part of a rebuilding project. So I think it was the right decision to let him go.
Of course it was the right decision to let him go. And I do support it. Unlike you, Stephen A., the Jets, I don't care, the New York, wherever they're from, as Bill Polian said, Cleveland,